So soulmates, like I said, this is going to be an all-in-one video, okay? Anything you will be needing concerning your basic pattern dress, okay, you are going to find it in this video. So just watch till the end so that you will see all of it, okay, and you will not miss anything. So I'm going to use this pattern as our dress, okay. So I'm assuming that this is my material now, and I will use the whole of the pattern as my full length, including the hemming allowance, okay. So at the down part of the pattern, I'm going to take 2 inches as my hemming allowance, okay. So I'm going to start by marking in my vertical measurements. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark my bust point measurement, which is 10.5. I'm going to mark my half length, that is my waist measurement, which is 17 inches. Then for my hip is 26 inches. So I'm going to mark it. Now the full length of the dress, okay, I'm just going to come up by 2 inches, okay. So now I'll start connecting the lines. Remember, I have my front and my back pattern together here. So this will serve as my hemming allowance, while the rest of the pattern paper is going to serve as the full length of the dress, okay. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my shoulder measurement, which is 16 inches. Dividing 16 inches by 2, that will give me 8 inches. Now because I'm marking on my pattern, I'm not going to be adding any form of allowance to this, okay. But if you are marking on your fabric, instead of you to take 8 inches, you're going to take 8.5 for your shoulder measurement. Is that okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is to take my neck line, okay. So I'll be taking 3 by 3 inches. This is the standard for your front neckline, and for the back neckline I'm going to be taking 3 inches by 1 inch for the back. So this is my back neckline and this is the front neckline. So now I'm going to take my shoulder slope. I'm going to take 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and I'm going to connect okay. So this is my shoulder slope. So now guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my nipple to nipple measurement, which is also the bust palm measurement. Is 8 inches, but you divide that into 2, that will give me 4. If I'm marking on my fabric, I'll take 4.5, but remember I said I'll not be adding any form of sewing allowance to this. So this is 4 inches, 4 inches, 4 inches. So I'm going to connect these lines. There you go. The next thing I'm going to do now is to insert my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. So I'm going to mark my 8 inches, and my shoulder line I'm going to apply it here so that I'll get the accurate measurement, okay. So I'm going to connect from my shoulder line down, and I've gotten my armhole measurement. So now I'm just going to finish it up by drawing this line. So this is our chest line, and this is the bust point. This is the waist line. This is the hip line, okay? And this is your chest line, like I said. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my dart, okay? So on my waistline here, I'm going to take half inch for that. On my bust point line here, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. On my waist line here, I'm going to go up by 2 inches. So now I'm just going to connect the lines. So this is the waist dart, okay? So I'm going to insert my bust measurement now, okay? So now I'm taking my horizontal measurement. My bust is 40. When you divide that by 4, I'm going to get 10 inches. So I'll mark my 10 inches here. Then my waist is 36. Dividing that by 4, I'm going to get 9 inches here. But remember, we collected half inch on our waistline here, so making it 1 inch. So that 1 inch, I'm going to add it back to this place. This is not an allowance, it's just something you need to do before adding your allowance, okay? So now that you've collected 1 inch here, you're going to add it back. So instead of marking 9 inches, I'm going to mark 10 inches, okay? Now on my hip line here, I'm going to divide my hip measurement into 4. That's 44 divided by 4. That will give me 11 inches. So I'm going to mark my 11 inches here. So you know the dart did not extend all the way to the hip line, so you don't need any addition of the dart allowance that you collected or whatever, okay? So now at the down part of my pattern paper here, because this is going to be a straight cut pencil gown, I'm going to take, you know, I collected 11 inches here, okay? But now I'll minus 2 inches from 11 inches. That will give me 9 inches. So I'll mark 9. This is because I want mine to be a penciled gown. But if you don't want yours to be a penciled gown, what you are going to do is to insert the measurements you have on your hip line, which is 11 inches. You just insert it back at the hemming line here, okay? So I'm going to connect these lines. So before I do that, I'll just insert my bust measurement also on my chest line here. So now from the hip line, I'm going to connect to my hem line. Okay, so I'll go back to my armhole and I'm going to divide my armhole into 2. That's 8 inches divided by 2. That will give me 4 inches. then I'll come in by 1/2 inch. Okay, this is for the front armhole. And then I'll finish it up with my armhole curve. Okay, then now for the back armhole, you're not going to go in that way, so you're just going to connect from this point. Okay, so this is for your back armhole. So now guys, now that we are done with all of this, the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my bust dart. So if you want to insert your bust dart, you are going to measure from your chest line to your waistline. I have 8 inches here, so you can divide it into 2 and you mark 4. Okay, you mark 4, then you come up by 1 inch. Okay, then you have 3, or rather, instead of dividing by 2 and going up by 1 inch, you can just come down by 3 inches from your chest line. Okay, so guys, now that is settled, I'm going to connect this point. I'm going to connect the point to my bust point here. Okay, I'll connect it like that. Did you see? So now the next thing I'm going to do is to come down on this dart line. Now I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So here is my 1 inch, and on the same line I'm going to mark half inch. Okay, half inch beside the dart line, then I will connect. So I'm just showing you how to get your bust dart in case you want a bust dart in your dress. This is how you are going to get it. So now you extend this a little bit. Okay, maybe come out by 1/2 inch. Okay, then you connect like this. This will help you not to run short of fabric when you are sewing. Okay, so now that we've done this, we are done with the front pattern. So I'm going to remove this pin and we'll go to the back part before cutting. So guys, this is our back pattern and we have our zip allowance here. So guys, I'm going to take my bust span measurement, which is 4 inches, 4 inches and 4 inches. Okay, then on the chest line here, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So this is 1 inch, and I'm going to connect from the 1 inch line there to my hip line. Now on my hip line also, I'm going to come up by 2 inches. 2 inches. Then on my waistline, I'm going to take half inch. So now I'm going to connect the lines. So now this is our waist dart, and you know we don't need the bust dart on your back pattern. Okay, so now that we have achieved this, the next thing I'm going to do is to eliminate zip bulge or back puff. Okay, so I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch from this place, not here. So I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch on my waistline. This is 50%. You can do 100%, like in some cases people do 100%. So I'm going to use this longer ruler and I'm going to trace it all the way from here to the I'm going to trace it all the way from here to this point. Okay, so by the time I'm getting here, I will terminate the line. Okay, can you see that? Now from there I'm going to trace it also, and as I'm going I will terminate the line. So when you do this on your fabric, it will prevent any form of zipper bulge or back puff. Okay, so now guys, this is it with the back pattern. So now I'm just going to place back my front pattern and I will cut this out. So I'm just going to use my pin to pin this up again. So this will help me when I'm cutting, my pattern will not displace. So at the down part of my pattern paper like this, I'm going to fold it in. Okay, before I do this, I just remembered that the 1 inch that we took from here, okay, we did not insert it back at the down part of our pattern. So you are going to do that, because by the time you are sewing and you take 1 inch bust that here, is going to affect the hemming part of your front fabric. So to avoid that, you are going to come down by 1 inch at the side line here. You're going to come down by 1 inch and you will connect like this. So by the time you sew your bust that, it is going to drag it up and it will eventually go back to the normal line. Okay, so now guys, I'm going to start cutting my pattern paper, but I'm going to fold this in like this. Okay, I'm going to fold the hemming allowance like this before I start to cut. So we are getting to the hip line here. Okay, you have to blend. Okay, you have to blend it. Don't allow it to be sharp like this. Okay, just blend it up. I'm kind of rushing this video, guys. So when you get to this part, you are going to cut your armhole line for the back first before you cut out for the front. So note that if you are marking on your fabric, you have to add 1/2 inch for joining allowance, but this is pattern, so I did not add any allowance. So I'll take out the back neckline now. Okay, so now that I'm done cutting the side seam of the front and the back, I'm going to put away the back and finish up with the front neckline and the armhole, even the hemming area. So this is your front neckline. So I'm going to finish up the armhole. So I've cut out the front armhole, then I'm going to cut out the 1 inch allowance width. So I'm cutting like this. Just observe what I'm doing. Okay, so it's kind of slanty here, but when you collect your 1 inch dart here, it will sum up to the actual length. Is that okay? So now we are done with the front part of the pattern. Remember, your fabric should be on fold. So now I'm going to finish up with the back pattern. So you have to cut out this because you don't have the bust that at the back, so we'll cut it out. You don't need that. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to cut this line that I created to eliminate the back puff. So you're just going to cut it out. So when you're cutting on your fabric, always try to apply this to your fabric, and you stop experiencing any form of back bulge at the end of your sewing. Okay, so there you go. Can you see the waistline is kind of inward a little bit? Okay, so this will help your zipper area. And also note that this is going to be an open slit penciled gown. Okay, it is going to be an open slit penciled gown. If not, I would have added my vent here. Okay, I would have added like 2 inches for my vent at the down part of the pattern. Okay, I would have added 2 inches this way and go like this. It will now serve as my vent. So with this, guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. So I told you guys it is going to be very detailed, and as you can see, it is. So in most cases, some people prefer going with the waist dart only. Okay, some people prefer going with the bust dart. It just depends on what you want. Okay, in my own case, in most cases, when I'm sewing with a stretchy fabric, I always use my bust dart. Otherwise, I use my waist dart. So some people can use either this one or this one, and some people can still use the both dart. It just depends on what you want. If you find this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe and also click on the notification bell so that you'll be updated each time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. See you on my next one. Bye.